Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mortgage Leadership Outlook, brought to you by National Mortgage Professional and AmBiz. Thank you so much for joining us today on this beautiful Wednesday. Hopefully, it's beautiful where you are. Hopefully, you're staying safe so you can have a conversation about leadership in the mortgage business and not have Laura Brandao involved in that conversation. So with us, we have AFR's president and partner, Laura Brandao. Laura, thank you so much for joining us today.
It is my pleasure, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so listen, I want to talk about what's been going on with AFR, how you guys have responded to everything that's been going on with this unbelievable, unprecedented times in our industry. But first, for those that don't know your history, because it is pretty awesome, let's take us actually back to how you got into the business. First off, I know actually, you got into the broker business when the broker was the evil person, the one who caused the housing mess, as we were made the scapegoat as the mortgage broker. But go back, actually, take us back actually, to your days actually working in call centers, because it says so much about you and your personality. Tell us actually, the history and the beginnings of Laura Brandao.
Well, thank you. I'll make it as quick as I can in this story, okay? So it all begins with being 19 years old and being a young mom, okay? So that's where the story begins. That in itself is shocking enough, but at that time, because I was a young mom, I certainly could not pay daycare. So my husband essentially went to work and I stayed home. Well, after a year, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I am losing my mind. And of course, I need to contribute to the family. So I said, okay, what can I do in the evening? And I had two choices. I could either go work at the mall or I could go and do telemarketing in a call center. Well, when I arrived, I absolutely fell in love with being able to jump on the phone, have a conversation with a stranger. And this actually starts, Andrew, when you said it tells a lot about me. To this day, I still follow the same philosophy as that moment in time, that when I get on the phone with someone, regardless if it was telling them about a special offer or whether it's someone speaking to me about a family today, anytime I come in contact with someone, I want them to feel better after speaking to me than before they ever spoke to me. So even at that time, I was very, very good at being on the phone with people and telling them whatever it was I needed to tell them. And I had the fortune of being put on the Champion Mortgage telemarketing lead generation campaign. Yes, Champion Mortgage. So little did I know that that was the introduction into me being introduced to the mortgage world. I was very, very good at generating mortgage leads for Champion, and I was quickly promoted within a few months to actually run the call center. Well, for the next 5 years, I built that call center to be the #1 telemarketing mortgage lead generation company in the state of New Jersey. I had many, many different companies coming to me. Well, as we fast forward, I had a second child, and now I didn't want to work at night anymore. Well, where was I going? I went to work for a mortgage broker. And that mortgage broker in Livingston, New Jersey said to me, why don't you start a sales organization? Well, I did that. I started a sales organization, and I did so well at generating sales that all of a sudden my operations fell. They couldn't keep up with the amount of sales that was coming in. So Laura Brandao said, hey, why don't you teach me how to process loans? And I'll help you to be able to process and close loans. Well, within 3 months, I was promoted to chief operations officer of that company. I wound up setting up warehouse lines, and I wound up making them a correspondent lender within a year or two. Okay? So as time is going by, I grew a couple of companies on the retail space, okay, direct to consumer. And then in the glorious day in the early 2000s, someone showed me wholesale. And I don't know how to explain it, but I immediately just fell in love with the wholesale side.
Yeah.
And because of that, I got really good at it. And in 2007, when the market was going down, I immediately said, where can I go? I was introduced to Rich Dubnoff, our CEO at AFR.
Yeah.
And at that moment, he said to me, Laura, you have the ability to start wholesale your way with no salary, no benefit, but your way, go to town.
Wow.
And actually 2 weeks ago, it was our 13th anniversary. We celebrated with a Zoom call with my entire company. And I sat just with this background with my cake that my mother made with a 13 on it as the entire company sang happy birthday. And I blew out our candles because that is what we've done every single year since I started that company. And that's how we got to here.
And I remember when AFR was starting, everything was coming crashing down.
Yes.
I've got a friend of mine actually, who I reached out to because we were a broker publication. I'm like, can you please help me find someone that's signing up new brokers? And I'll never forget Randy Michaels. He was raving about you guys. Said great people, great team. You got to reach out to them. Got to do business with them. And he kind of told me a little bit about the story. So listen, here we are. At that time, there's limited product, limited things you could do.
One product.
So tell us, what was the product that you guys focused on?
FHA, one product, down to a 500 FICO score. And as you said, we were dedicated to the broker space. We actually were dedicated to the broker space for 4 years. For 4 years, we literally only signed up brokers. We only partnered with brokers. We never even thought to open up correspondent lending or to do any of that until years later, because that's who we were. We are, and we still are. We are dedicated to that broker space because we believe in it's just a different mindset, a different mentality. The correspondent space is wonderful. I'm not knocking the correspondent space, but it's different. It's just completely different than the broker connection that you have with those partners. So for 4 years, we only did broker. For probably the first 3, we only did FHA. That was it. We didn't offer conventional. We didn't offer VA, USDA, none of that. The most exciting thing we offered was 203Ks maybe a year in. And I actually remember not many companies offered renovation back then. Like that was a big deal that we actually offered renovation.
That was an ugly product back then.
That was like a big, you're being risky, by doing a renovation loan at the time. But yeah, we came out. FHA down to 500, submitted to AFR. And the other thing, the other joyous was just timing, right? Timing. It's 2009. Here we are. We're growing. We're building. And Taylor Bean and Whitaker goes out of business. I can remember the day that they went down. I literally had boxes and boxes and boxes of files because back then it was paper. It wasn't digital. It wasn't uploads. It was literally paper. People would upload, then you had to print out everything. Boxes of files because nobody had anywhere to put manufactured homes. Nobody wanted manufactured homes. So here I'm opening my arms going, bring them this way. And we just drowned in manufactured homes that to this day, that's a product that we still are dedicated to. It's actually interesting that when COVID happened, that was one of the products people pulled away from. They're slowly bringing it back, but it's interesting that the ones that you saw start to be pulled off the shelf. Like, nope, we're not doing that. Nope, we're removing that one. Manufacturer is one of the things that you lost early on.
Interesting. And you guys stay committed to that too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So now, like, tell us a little bit about the strategy about focusing on because you you double down on a few products. Talk to us a little bit about that strategy, and then I just wonder actually if you think actually it's something that brokers should be doing, if they should become a specialist rather than being a generalist. So tell us about AFR's story, about why you guys double down on the manufactured housing product and a few other products, but talk to us a little bit about that strategy, and then if you think that that's a good idea for brokers to be more of a specialist.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I mentioned it was our birthday, right? So we just celebrated our 13th. And one of my team members, she always says to me, Laura, if you look at AFR, it's kind of like raising a child, right? AFR Wholesale is my baby. And I watched it when it was a little infant, and then I nurtured it. And so I'll equate it the same way. Okay, let's look at it as if it's a child. So I can remember early on, okay, I was a young mom to AFR Wholesale too. What did I know, right? I'd never opened up a wholesale company before. I had to learn some lessons, right? All right, so I'm thinking, all right, this is a really great idea to do this. Well, you make mistakes. Just like a young mom of a baby, sometimes you have to learn your lessons. And we made some mistakes. But then you have to calibrate, right? And you have to say, oh, not going to do that again. And then after you get it down, well, then you start saying, well, okay, we've been doing one product and we've become an expert in this. Now, all right, I'm a child now. Who do I want to be? What's my personality, right? What direction do I want to go? And that's when it gets interesting. So for the originators and the brokers out there, you have to look at your business, right? You have to look at your business and you have to say, okay, I've mastered this. I know how to do a regular conventional loan and government loan, and I know how to do a commodity, right? I can be like everybody else, and that's great. I'm a master. But then you have to decide, well, what are you known for? Are you known for being the local expert? Maybe you're going to be the best person in Parsippany, New Jersey. You are absolutely going to crush. You're going to know all the realtors. You're going to know every locale. You're going to be dedicated to the school systems. You're going to know all the clubs. You're going to double down on the community. Okay, that could be a strategy, right? Yep. Or you could say, I don't want to focus on the community. I want to be a little more broad, right? I want to have the whole tri-state area. I want to have New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. I want to have all of it, okay? All right, well, I'm not going to be able to dive in. So what else could I do? Well, maybe I could specialize in one type of product, or maybe I specialize in first-time home buyers, or maybe I'm going to look for DPA programs, specialized to teachers or to first-time. But you have to analyze your business and decide, what is that brand? Because it ties in, right? You have to make that decision. And that, once you think of those things, you have to dedicate time to it. The worst thing we can do is to say, well, today I'm this, and tomorrow I'm that, and the next day I'm something else, and I give it a week. I give it 1 week. It didn't work. I give up. Yeah. I took one webinar. I didn't become an expert. I'm going to move on. Well, that's the worst thing we can do.
Yeah.
So I can't necessarily what works best for your business, but I can tell you that as entrepreneurs, right, as owners, we have to decide, what do I want to put out to the world, to the messaging, so people know, oh, manufactured home. Yeah, AFR, manufactured home. Already connecting those dots, right? I don't necessarily have to every day go out there saying it, because in time, people just connect those two things together. And it should be the same thing for an originator in whatever they want to do within their business.
Yeah. And Laura, because of that is when you go to Facebook groups and people talk about manufactured housing, AFRs that there might be if 10 people respond, it's 7 saying AFR and then 3 random companies that are
that's right.
The person's favorite. But that so by doubling down, letting people know you guys are the expert in the manufactured housing product. everyone becomes familiar with that, and they become actually familiar with you with that. And if your market is, let's say, you feel that you've got an ability to double down on the renovation lending, if you're going out there and your content shows that, and you start showing actually pictures and videos of actually of the
Correct.
houses that you're working on, then people remember you as that, and which is listen. It's great if you can get all the business, but you're not going to be able to get all the business. All the business is going to go to, to the generalist strategy is great for big, giant players.
Correct.
But for you to own your local market, this is the way to do it. Find that what you're really good at and partner up with a great company like AFR to help you be actually that leader in that. So let's go back. Actually, you said something there, and I wrote this down, and I wanted to because I know how much of an open book you are.
Yes.
So do you remember some of the mistakes that you made when you were like that childlike company, before actually you started to grow up? Do you remember some of actually those big mistakes that could have possibly sunk you? Maybe. I mean, what were those mistakes?
Well, even the generalist, that was a mistake, because and for any lender out there, you'll appreciate this, okay? Because I think we have all, as anyone that has, if you have originators working for you, or if you're a wholesale lender, you hear from your sales team all the time, if I only have fill in the blank, whatever it is, okay? If I only had blank, I could do X amount of volume, or we could do this, or I could be better, or we all have heard those pressures as leaders and executives of, if only I could offer this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. And it all sounds great. And when we were coming up and we were making decisions, once we opened up that we were going to offer all different products, well, we made the mistake of thinking that I had to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
That was actually a huge mistake. That was actually a very, very, very misstep, because then I was nothing to anyone, because I was trying to be everything to everyone. That was one of our mistakes.
Well, I mean, also considering the time, like they were just happy to have someone take a new broker application. So something, you might call that a mistake, but something at that point, actually, just day by day, actually, we saw multiple lenders getting crushed and imploding as we watched the implode meter just go up, 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 and so at that point, I mean, I look at it this way, like maybe that wasn't such a bad mistake. It was good at the time, but I guess to your point, actually, if you would have become that expert early on, it just would have started actually getting people going. And something, it came down to actually also at that time to be that specialist, to be that someone actually who can help people when they couldn't be helped by anyone else, because you were someone actually who is a leader in that space. Could have been actually something that I guess valuable. So, all right, I see where you see it was a mistake. I see it actually as a great opportunity, and a time that you were serving the broker when we needed you more than ever.
And it's interesting, two of my long-term employees were actually our brokers early on. And it's funny that my VP of operations and my head of my setup team, the head of my setup team was the very first broker loan I ever did. She was the first loan I ever closed at AFR Wholesale in 2017. And we bonded so much that 3 years later, she called me in 2010. She called me and said, I would love to come and work for you. And she's still with me now. And it's just interesting that you're correct. It was, and at the time, just so you know, I never once thought that. I never thought, I'm helping these people that don't, never. It was such gratitude and such appreciation for the struggle these people were going through, where they were being blamed and they were being told it's all your fault and you should just pack it in, just give up, right? I never, ever looked at it that way. And it's funny, I guess I was just oblivious at the time that we had so much business that we were just trying to focus and get it done. But it was such a partnership that even some of those partnerships turned into being part of our AFR family.
That's awesome. Yeah. As Jason says, Laura Brandao is one of the best people in our industry. Amen, Jason. 100%.
Thank you, Jason.
So now,
I tried no matter what, Andrew, nothing but ever glory, love for everyone in our industry, and positivity. Because the outlook for everything we do, I don't care about the cycles. There's always going to be cycles, ups and downs and ins and outs and compliance and changes and rates. That's never changing. That's what we signed up for. That's the mortgage business. It's not changing.
Yeah.
But you know what can change? What we do for our industry. The difference we make of every family that we get to help and every partner that we get to work with, we make the difference. And that's our choices.
Yep. So part of actually what you do is, I mean, besides actually, running the company, besides actually, keeping everything going and doing all you do, is you're an inspiration to so many. Between your podcast, your lives, the Facebook groups. So talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you do to kind of help spread this positive message and this positive attitude that you have.
So I'm in the middle of writing something. So it's perfect timing that you're asking me this question, because literally this week I have had pen in hand writing out something, and I've thought about this week. From 2007 to 2018, I literally was tied to my desk for 15, 16 hours a day building a company. Yep. Okay? Most people did not even know my name in the industry.
That's true. Yeah.
No, most people had no idea who I was, right?
That's true.
So, right? No one even knew who I was.
Yeah, I remember when I first interviewed, I'm like, wait, who is this? And how do I not know this person? So I mean to interrupt, but wow.
Yes. So you get it, okay? You agree, okay? But yet, I had been in the industry for a very long time up to that point, but I was tied to my desk because my mission was to build a company. And I did that. I built my company. Yep. And then in 2018, when margin compression started to tighten and deals were tougher to come by, and Laura, Mama Bear of AFR Wholesale, needed to figure out how to get a lot more business to come in the door. And I was provided with an opportunity to get up on a stage. And Andrew, I know everyone will be shocked, but I literally was scared beyond at a level of anxiety. I know now you're like, what? Come on, Laura. I know, but it's true. So at that moment, that's when the ripple happened. Once I was on the stage once, it just spiraled. But why did it spiral? Because people started saying, Laura, your energy and positivity. Actually, I just did a podcast and somebody used the word infectious. They used the word or contagious. People use the word infectious or contagious. And I realized, Andrew, that I also owed it to our industry to share that. So for the last couple of years, the Motivational Mondays, the lives, the doing the podcasts, all that stuff, it's because I'm trying to give it to all those wonderful and glorious people in our industry. Now, I also want to share why I have a podcast. Do you know why I have a podcast?
No, tell us. I mean,
okay, I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to tell you why. Because I learned that as you become an executive, and the longer you're an executive in an executive role, you speak a lot, but you may not listen as much as you did previously.
Interesting. Okay.
So I decided 2 reasons. One, I mainly don't interview mortgage people. I'm going to tell you why I don't. I don't because I go and seek out strangers, people I've never met, people that do not know what a Laura Brandao is. I could be Jane Smith. They have no idea who I am, no desire to connect to me. I cold called them, Andrew, and I asked them to come on my podcast so I can spread positivity about what they're doing. I do that. One, I never want to give up my skill to be able to reach out to strangers, because you shouldn't ever rest on your laurels of your name or your position. You should always go in humble and realize you are no better, no bigger, no smarter, no better than anyone out there. So why should I use my name or my title? It doesn't matter. I'm just a woman. And I reach out and I then bring them on. And then I have to listen, not speak, not share my thoughts. I listen and spotlight them. And that is a very valuable lesson.
Wow. That's great. I mean, listen, I think that is an amazing thing as we're, as an industry, looking to, create content to connect with our audience, connect with our community. So you reach out and when you do these, when you do your podcasts, so how much of it is scripted? Like how much do you know questions that you're going to ask going into? Like what is that your prep time look like for your podcast? And I'm going to take notes here if you don't mind.
So I have a routine. Okay. Well, a couple of things. And I've gotten my craft is getting more skilled as time is going by. Okay. July 21st will be 1 year since I started it. So I'm rounding the 1 year mark. Okay. In a couple of weeks. So now, how do I get my guests? I love to feed my brain with TED Talks and motivational things. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I stay away from news and television. I don't really go there. But I love to feed my brains with books, videos, and TED Talks. So I'm constantly reading. And if I stumble across a book that I learned something that I think the mortgage business needs to know, right? My last podcast guest was a gentleman called Garland Vance. He wrote a book called Gettin'. He's from Tennessee, so no G. Gettin' Unbusy. This man was literally sick with stress, migraines, digestion problems, just overwhelmed because he had little kids and he was getting his doctorate and he was working his behind off and literally he was sick. And his doctor said, "You are going to die if you do not make a change in your life." And for 3 years, this man researched what stress does to you and how to change how you work and how you live your life, your family life, your professional life, and how to change that to make it so you could be fulfilled and you could be happy and you're not overdoing certain things and you're not stressed. Well, I thought to myself, the mortgage business needs to know that guy, right? The mortgage business needs to hear this man.
Especially now.
Right. So I reached out. He doesn't know me from anybody. And I said, "I read your book. I'd love for you to be on the podcast." So long story short, they agree. Well, now that I'm more skilled and knowledgeable, I have a link where I ask them, please, give me your links, give me your headshot, give me, so they fill out a form. Give me every social media so that I can promote you. Give me a couple of quotes so that I can promote your quotes about you as I'm leading up to the podcast. And then I do ask them, do you have any specific questions that you want me to ask? Okay. And they do that. But then a few weeks before I have them on, I read their books. I Google them. I listen to every podcast they've been on. I watch every YouTube TED Talk. I study them, usually for at least 5 to 6 hours. And then I prepare my questions and I have everything organized for them before we go live.
Wow. That's great. So let me ask you, like, if let's say there's a broker out there watching this and they've been thinking about like starting their own podcasts.
I would.
Well, give us an idea of
I would. And I'm going to tell you what I would do if I was a broker.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I was a broker, I'm just going to use Parsippany, New Jersey, because that's where AFR is. Okay. If I was a broker, what I would do is I would actually use my community. So if I'm a broker in New Jersey, okay, I would actually look for all interesting people that are doing things within my community. Because I'm going to tell you, you have to understand what's going to happen. Okay. So now, Andrew, you're a leader within your community, and I noticed by reading the local digital magazine, or newspaper, that you just did something, whatever you did. So now I'm the broker, and I reach out to Andrew. You can find them on Facebook, LinkedIn. You'll find a way to reach out to Andrew, okay? It's a glorious, social media is the easiest way for us to connect to people right now.
Yeah.
So now I reach out to Andrew and I say, Andrew, I saw the article in the XYZ magazine about what you're doing in Parsippany, New Jersey. I would love to spotlight you so everyone else knows how great you are. So I have a podcast. It'll only take about a half an hour of your time. We can do it whenever it's convenient. And I also forgot. My end is always, please say yes. Like, yes, yes, yes. And I can't tell you how many people just respond with yes. So that's another thing that I do. So if I was a broker, I would spotlight local people. So what's going to happen? Now Andrew's on my podcast. And Andrew, that has connections within this community, is going to push out Laura Brandao, broker extraordinaire in Parsippany, New Jersey. And next thing you know, oh, hey, I'm friends with Andrew. And you know what? I was looking to refi. And I just noticed that Andrew has this awesome mortgage person, Laura Brandao. I bet that could be somebody that I can reach out to. You dive in to your local area. I'm telling you right now, from a human factor, who doesn't want to be spotlighted 100%. And to be made feel special?
Yeah.
And you're going to be the person to do it for them.
Oh, that's great. Now, so you're not talking about real estate. This is just any business leaders, someone actually maybe that got on the 40 under 40.
Whatever
it is, you reach out to them, you interview them. Ideally, people that have big followings that
yes,
have kind of visibility. You want to make sure. Actually, listen, you'd like to interview a lot of people, but your time is well spent by the people that have big social circles that they could share that. So that's fantastic. And so listen, and there's a lot of people that say, well, I'm going to wait till I till I get the right equipment, or I'll get this. What are your thoughts for those people actually that are coming up with every excuse why they shouldn't start?
Listen, we can all come up with excuses why you cannot. Today is the day. You need to make a decision, and you also need to look at what is the future that you're looking for. Because if you continue to put off saying, well, it's not the right time, it's busy, the rates are low, I have lots of business, you could think that. But you're really not doing your work today for today. Because today you're worrying about what you have in front of you. You need to be planning for 1, 2, 3 years down the road. Andrew, what did I say? No one knew the name Laura Brandao until April of 18. I have a feeling most people know my name now.
Yes.
And that was all within a 2-year period.
Yep.
But starting is the hardest part. And then I'll give you a piece of advice from another podcast guest.
Okay, great.
I interviewed one of the longest running podcast guests. He started in 2011. Okay. And he's one of the top podcasts. And I said to him, what's the secret? What is the secret of a good podcast? You want to know what secret is?
Yes, please.
Consistency. Don't stop.
Yep.
The same day, like, be consistent. I'll give you an example. Mine is Tuesdays. Every single Tuesday, there is going to be an episode released. That's just the way it is. Yeah. Every Monday, we put a video on Instagram promoting that we're going to release on Tuesday. It's just consistency.
Yeah.
You have to make it so your followers know, okay, on Tuesday, on Saturday, on Thursday, whatever it is, make it so your followers know to expect it. And then they're aware that it's coming. You can't start something and then disappear for a month and then come back and then disappear for 3 weeks and then come back. That's not going to cut it for people. Yeah. If you're dedicated to something, come up with a plan, have a schedule. You don't have to have the best equipment. You don't have to, I mean, we all know we're mortgage people. We're not marketing people. This is not a marketing agency. So get started and be consistent.
That's great. Well, listen, there's so many podcasts that are out there with 3 to 10 episodes.
Do you notice?
Yeah. So many, and it's they lose that consistency, and I think actually the biggest thing is they don't see those immediate results.
Exactly.
We're looking for that instant gratification. So you just got to keep it consistent, and you find your voice. So interesting. So you became a better listener, would you say, overall from doing these? Did it help you by doing this practice? Did it allow you to listen to your employees, listen to brokers? Did that impact other parts of your life?
It changed my entire perspective in more than one way. Everything. It expanded my mind. Because, Andrew, as humans, we get caught in a cycle, right? When you do the same thing over and over and over again, your brain is on autopilot. It just keeps going to do the same thing. I drive to work the same way. I have breakfast at the same time. I eat lunch at the same time. I do the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
When you are speaking to someone that is a completely different industry, I've spoken to numerous neurologists, many doctorate people. I've interviewed people that I would have never met in my entire life because I had no reason to meet them, right? I had no reason to ever interact with those people. It forced me to read, research, broaden my horizon, truly pay attention. Pay attention. Because a lot of times, even when we're listening, we're not really paying attention because we're worried about the next thing we're going to say, or we figure we already have the answer. Well, when you're interviewing somebody that has 2 doctorates and they're speaking about the research and the brain and hormones, and I have to tell you, you better listen. Because if you do not, you're going to look quite foolish. So, Andrew, I read a lot, like I said, and I love the brain. The brain just really inspires me, okay? Do you know that it is proven now that you can regenerate brain cells? Because people always thought that as you age, you lose brain cells, right? That's what everybody thought. Yeah. Do you know why you lose brain cells? Do you know how you would lose brain cells when you're older? Do you know?
I'm just going to guess and say from not using it, not using it enough. Yeah, that's okay.
You got it. Okay. So the reason why you lose brain, you got that answer right. So the reason why people lose brain cells is because as you get older, most people are not learning new things. They mainly figure out, well, I like this, whatever this is, and I'm going to keep doing it. I enjoy this. I'm really good at it. I'm going to keep doing this. Mm-hmm. And then you retire. And usually when you retire, you're not really challenging your brain too much. You're kind of just in this routine. Yeah. So do you know how you add brain cells. So how do you add brain cells?
Breaking your routine, challenging yourself, saying yes.
Learning new things.
Yeah.
Today is actually a perfect day for me to say this. So I'm sure you saw the Christine's new magazine edition, July, came out today for Women with Vision. Okay. When that magazine came out, immediately within a second of the first magazine, I reached out and I said, I want to write a magazine column. So, of course, Christine was like, Laura, you can write whatever you want. Right? So I'm like, all right, now what the heck am I going to write? Laura Brandao has never written before. That's not something I do. I was a little scared. I thought to myself, I'm going to now put my name on an article. I've not known for writing articles. That's not something I've done. What will people think? What if it's terrible? What if people are like, oh my goodness, this woman should never pick up a pen again? But Andrew,
yeah,
you challenge yourself all the time. Yeah. Because every day that you are doing something, that you're using different parts of your brain, and you're feeding your brain with new information and new connections, every single day you are literally adding new brain cells.
That's great. So challenge yourself. Do the things that you don't want to do. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's how you actually regenerate those brain cells that you thought you lost.
That's right.
Wonderful. So, all right. I want to actually talk about how we started the Mortgage Leadership Outlook was started back in March. We said actually, all right, listen, things are getting really, really ugly. We need to actually connect with leaders like yourself to tell the story about what's going on. Can give a perspective, what's happening in the secondary market. Talk about all of a sudden the shrinking credit criteria that we just keep seeing. So talk to us a little bit about AFR, exactly what happened. Bring us back to you personally. I know you were at a conference in March. Talk to us a little bit about March and how you personally dealt with this and how AFR has dealt with COVID-19.
It's so interesting. Like I said, I was at a conference the first week of March, and I remember us saying, oh, I hope we don't have to shake hands and all that. And of course, we all shook hands, but we came back. And I remember, you're hearing more and more. And on our executive meetings, we would say, maybe we need to make sure we're 100% protected because we might need to send people home. In addition to that, my sister is the chief nursing officer for a major New Jersey hospital. So I had a little bit of inside scoop as she's telling us, Laura, it's much worse than anything you see on television. And just be prepared. People are going to have to go work from home. So we immediately, by the second week of March, we were preparing for anyone that wasn't able to work remotely. We had to make sure that they could. Our IT team immediately jumped in. They did an amazing job of getting everybody their equipment. And so now here we are. We survived March. We survived St. Patrick's Day. I remember it was one of the last days we were in the office. So I think it was maybe the day after we were like, you know what? Let's start sending everybody home. We're okay. We can all work remotely. Not a problem. Yep. So I remember maybe that next day, I received a phone call from our CEO. And he's like, Laura, the shelter in place orders, they're coming fast and furious. Like it's one state after another after another. He's like, I'm going to stop lending in those states. And I remember saying, we can't do this to the brokers. Like we can't put them in this kind of position. I remember my immediate reaction was, I need to go to the office and be able to do a video. It's so funny that was the thought in my head. My thought in my head was, I can't do this to my clients without people seeing me. Like to be able to know that I understand how hard this is. And I know the challenges that they're going to have. And we wound up just making it that they couldn't lock the loans until the loans were clear to close. So we actually didn't wind up pulling back the states. I was able to say, okay, maybe we're jumping the gun a little here. But as more and more shelter in place happened, we got very nervous with the construction side. And we said this, and why? You have warehouse lines. And the warehouse lines, just like the non-QM and just like the jumbos, they started saying, hold on, you've got no permits being able to be issued. The towns are shutting down. The builders in certain states can't continue building. We need to do something. And I have to tell you, that decision was extremely difficult. And we funded as many as we could, as long as we could. And then we said, we're going to pause it. We're going to pause. And we're still on a pause on that particular product. Now, luckily, renovation is slowly coming back. So, I mean, it's all now coming back. But you also had to make the decision of, I used to go down to 580 FICO scores. Well, there's another thing. The warehouse banks were, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to do that any longer. So it was difficult that you did have to reach out and have these difficult conversations. But as the kudos back, I know how hard it was for our brokers, for all the different lenders that pulled back products and tightened up credit guidelines and made all these revisions. That was a really difficult couple of weeks, especially, but they absolutely took it in the best manner they could. And it wasn't this, I have to say something, Andrew, that when all these changes started happening in mid-March, for the first time in my entire time in the industry, I was on calls with my competitors.
Wow.
I was on calls with other top wholesale lenders as we said, okay, guys, what are we doing about the appraisals? What are we doing about the closings? How are we handling verifications of employment? And for the first time, I saw our industry come together to be able to figure out how we can continue to lend and how we can continue to help our clients. And that, if I was going to say what was the lessons that we learned, the lessons were is that our industry truly came together this time. And that was the biggest difference you saw.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. Listen, this is unlike 2008, where it was the mortgage products that created the problem. This is something actually that was an external force that we had to band together, to actually be a unified front. You didn't see bashing of lenders.
No.
It was very like, okay, let's just do this. Let's get this. Let's get this together. And even actually, even the lenders that everyone has envy over, that not everyone likes, you still that they weren't even bashed. It was great to see actually.
No, it was really handled well. Yeah. It really was handled well. It was handled very professionally, and I truly am so proud of the entire industry.
Yeah, it really was great. And now so here we are actually dealing with that, but from a operational standpoint. So now, I mean, business has increased significantly, so as things have adjusted, as things have opened back up, how have you guys dealt operationally, with, the increased interest and people wanting to do business, closing loans? How has AFR dealt with that?
Yeah, and it was challenging because not only internally, everybody went remote, and that was a blessing. The productivity was through the roof. I mean, everybody just hunkered down and did what they needed to do. I mean, we, increased volume 50%, and we didn't add any staff. Like literally, it was like, okay, the volume is going through, you're pushing it out, but you didn't really add anybody. And it's interesting that we even offshore some of our tasks, some of the menial stuff. They had to go shelter in place too. So you couldn't add anybody, even offshore items. You weren't able to add anybody. They were working remotely. So yes, it certainly was one of those times that everybody's going to remember. Hey, do you remember during the pandemic when you had this tidal wave of business and the bulging of the pipelines? And we were able to come together and be more productive. So now, of course, it's all, let's add, let's absolutely add staff and continuing to grow. And now you're able to do that and perfect processes and add technology enhancement. So thankfully, you're through the biggest bulge, because now the whole thing in March, that first 2 weeks of March, I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. Not ever in the mortgage business did you see that amount of volume coming into a company. Now everybody's adjusted to the volume that's coming in. Now it's more steady. That was literally a tidal wave.
So do you miss being in an office? Because your personality just seems like the kind of person that likes that, in person, face to face, belly to belly. So, is that something that, do you miss? Do you want actually to bring that back? Where are you with, working, because you guys have this beautiful headquarters in Parsippany. I've been actually in your offices. It's gorgeous, big, giant building. So, what happens with that?
I know. I literally have 15 people in that humongous building. Literally, that's it. There's 15 people in that office. And it's mainly only people getting mail and some post-closing people, to get the notes and things like that. That's it. So, I never would have thought that I would say I'm okay with working remotely or working from home, because I was someone that, sure, I had no problem working at night or on the weekends, but a day-to-day at home, I never envisioned it. But I will tell you, our philosophy in terms of people in the office, we're not telling anyone that they have to go to an office, okay? It is 100% their choice. Most people are working very efficiently and productively from their homes. Great. Why would you have a need to do anything else? Yeah. I do miss the personal interaction. You are right. I'm an extrovert. I enjoy feeding off of people. I like that. I like feeling that. I've read a lot about the Zoom fatigue thing, so I'm like so in tune about the Zoom fatigue. Like now it like messes with my brain, because they literally, what happens, right? Like how your brain has to work twice as hard when you're watching someone on a video.
Interesting. No, I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So they're saying that people get Zoom fatigue, is what it's called, because they feel exhausted after watching or doing something like this, because our brains have to focus more, and it actually exhausts us.
Interesting. Well, it's because when we're talking on the phone, we're texting.
You're doing other things, right?
Yeah, we're totally, and now with Zoom, I'm like, I guess I'm not going to be able to multitask on this. I got to give you 100% of my attention.
You're right.
So how do you keep the productivity, still strong in an organization as, things start to open up, as now all of a sudden you can go out with your spouse for lunch at a outdoor dining place, parks open up. It's, here actually in New York, we're big beach people. So how do you keep that productivity at those same levels as there tends to be more?
It's a question. It is a question, but I will tell you that we were 60% remote before the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
So 60% of our organization was already remote. So to be quite honest, a lot of the people that weren't remote, like the executives weren't remote, but I don't work any different than, it doesn't really matter where I am. I literally shut the door at 6 a.m. and my husband sees me again at the end of the day. We never see each other. So I guess it all depends, but we were already in that remote mode. Every underwriter is remote. I haven't had a person in my office that was an underwriter in probably 3 years. The entire closing department was remote. Most of the account managers were remote. So most of the people that were in the office, they were more of like the entry-level people. And that's tricky, right? So they've done great, and I think they'll always continue to be great. But my question for me that I've had is, how do you bring in entry-level, brand new to the industry remotely?
That's tough.
That's tough.
Yeah, I know we're talking about that, and that was you know, it was a large organization that I know that had everything planned out so perfectly. Like they were ready for this. They in January they started preparing for this, saying this is going to happen. Let's be prepared.
Yep.
And the one thing that they didn't calculate was training and bringing people,
Yeah.
having new people come in. And you know, I mean, fortunately, you guys were able to do this, but without actually hiring people and just using actually your current staff. That's an amazing thing. That really is. That's phenomenal. So very cool. So listen, I tell you what I'm really excited about. You are going to be at one of the first conferences out there. I just put that up on there. So Originator Connect is happening in Vegas. Laura's going to be presenting. They're going to be on the main stage. And I got to say, like, it's unbelievable the things that we're doing to make sure everyone's safe and comfortable, and we're, you know, the abundance of precaution that we're taking to make sure that the business is going to happen there. The people are going to be safe about it, and more importantly, there's going to be a lot of people there. We've actually only opened up registrations, I think, about 2 weeks ago. We already have 600 people actually that have signed up for the event. You know, we've got actually some additional sponsors coming on. It is really, really exciting, and you know, you're going to be at one of the first mortgage conferences. Really, really excited about it. Any ideas about what kind of what you're going to share at the conference?
I'm working on that. That's part of my writing that I was speaking of. So I have a lot of ideas. Some will do with some lessons we learned during the pandemic. Yeah. I'm actually want to speak about that. So that's part of one of the things I want to share, and many other things. But I will tell you, Andrew, I'm very, very interested in doing this for multiple reasons, of course, but I don't think that things are going to change drastically in our world in the next, 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Yeah. So I think I'm definitely want to attend this event because I want to see what the new event looks like, and I want to participate in that, and I want to encourage people to come and be part of this, because we do all have to continue to do business together, and we do all have to safely be able to interact. And I appreciate that you guys are doing this. Kudos to you guys for putting this out there and giving this platform. And it's going to be great for us to be together again.
Yeah. It certainly is fantastic. All right, Laura, thank you so much. We just looked at, we're almost at an hour here. I apologize for taking all your time here, but really, really just appreciate it. I love your message, love your energy. And so, but by the way, one of the things I've always found so unbelievable, as big as actually AFR has gotten, as busy as you are, between now writing a book, writing an article, between the podcast, doing the lives, and still, if you call your phone, you're always answering. If you call AFR's main phone number, it's Laura, and I'm always like, Laura speaking. I'm like, Laura Brandao, the president and partner of one of actually the most favored mortgage wholesale lenders out there, is answering the phone. So, and I just share with us why do you do that? Why is that so important? Because I've always marveled in that, in your ability to be so busy and still actually make sure actually you're the one that's primarily answering that line.
Well, I guess maybe that ties back to that listening thing again. Okay. So I believe that sometimes people get to a level that they don't truly know the inner workings of what's happening within the organization. So the fact that when I answer the phone, people don't know who I am. So people are very open and honest to tell me what they're calling about or what they need. So if they call with a need, well, I might have just learned something that maybe I need to update something in my resource center, or maybe I need to understand a bad situation of something negative that's happening. And most people do not feel comfortable calling the president of the company to speak about those things. But when I give them the platform, because I'm the one that opened the door for them, they do feel comfortable. And that has been a very, very important aspect of how I get information and interact with our clients.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It really is just like it's this obvious thing that you do out there. I'm surprised more people don't do it. But Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
My
We
pleasure.
really, really appreciate it. All right, everyone, thank you for watching another Mortgage Leadership Outlook, where we bring you the best leaders in the mortgage industry. We've got a great one we're working on for next week. It's going to be Wednesday, every Wednesday, 4 o'clock East Coast time, 1 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. And we will see you in Vegas, August 21st through 23rd at Originator Connect. Stay safe.